Hi, I'm Faith McCann, and I've been a witch for over 40 years. And no, we are not evil. Learn more about the magical world and how the magical world affects your world right here on The Magical Alternative. And you don't have to be a witch to watch. And hello, magical ones. Welcome to The Magical Alternative. I'm your host, Faith McCann. And hello, crew of Magical Alternative. Happy New Year. And we're sending Happy New Year wishes to November Sound and look forward to having them back soon. Tonight's guests have the Executive Director of the Little Theatre of Manchester, Mr. Dwayne Harris. We'll be finishing up our incredible discussion on runes with Mr. Gavin Bone. And we'll have a musical interlude with a couple of classic songs. Then we'll finish up with a book review on the late Theodore Geisel, also known as Dr. Seuss. This is our 24th episode, everyone. Congratulations. It's 2 full years. I want to thank everyone on the crew, the CBC Bolton Public Access TV studio, Melanie and Nick. We could not do this without you, all the interns, and of course, you watching. Without you, we would just be here doing this by ourselves. And we still would, because this is super fun. Anyway, let's get into our show. We don't talk politics on this show, but sometimes we do need to talk about crazy crime. Last month, we discussed crazy neighborhood Karens who were going around attacking Halloween witch decorations. Well, we showed you those videos, and they were pretty funny. Well, this month in Altadena, California, police were called to a house where an intruder was consistently breaking in day and night with total disregard as to whether anyone saw him or not. Talk about nerve, see for yourself. We have this on video and it is real.
Crawl spaces under homes can be tight, even for a bear. But this now famous Altadena bear has made the narrow space under Ken Johnson's home a den for the winter. Some residents believe the Eden fire destroyed its home, which is why it now roams their neighborhood looking for shelter and food.
Bears don't want to be around us any more than we want to be around them. And if they feel like they're cornered, that could be a problem. But if they see an escape route, they're going to take it. And then you also just want to make sure that you're being loud, making yourself big, waving your hands around, and slowly backing away.
Remember the survey when women were asked if they were walking in the woods? Like that happens. Women just don't go wandering in the woods. But if you were walking in the woods, you were a woman, would you rather encounter a strange man or a wild bear? And when this bear was interviewed, it said the neighborhood was nice, and it had been featured in Bear Monthly magazine in an article, Top 25 Cities Where Women Predominantly Chose Bear in the Man versus Bear survey. So, not a one-off. Yes, animal crimes are on the rise. A few years ago, we had a crow named Canuck who was in Canada, but they named him, not us, who became an unlikely accomplice during another crime. A man in Canada set fire to a car in the parking lot of McDonald's, and when he was surrounded by police, he brandished a knife. After the man was finally convinced to drop the weapon, he was promptly arrested. Well, while the police cordoned off the area, before they could pick up the knife, Canuck the crow swooped down, picked it up, and started to fly away. Police chased the crow down the street before Canuck was finally convinced to drop the knife. The police collected the evidence, but the crow was none too happy about losing his prize. He then attempted to steal an officer's sunglasses, then attempted to steal gear from a TV news team. A hot mic caught Canuck saying, "I'd do it again. I would, just give me a chance." Well, we checked in with Canuck recently, and we're happy to say he is a serious member for several years of a 12-step program for kleptomaniac crows and jays. Hang in there, Canuck, you got this, one day at a time. Also, in relation to wildlife in your city or town, be sure not to become the criminal inadvertently yourself. Yes, many communities in Connecticut, some right here in the greater Hartford area, are banning the feeding of all wildlife to prevent bears and other wildlife from coming into neighborhoods from the forested regions. A town next door, Manchester, just passed a local ordinance last year that from December 1st to March 31st, you can only feed birds at bird feeders only. What is this? Hold on a moment. I think there is a hot news story. Hold on. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Adele. And it's Adele's birthday today. Thank you, Adele. Oh, this just in. Local wildlife firm of Moose and Squirrel Esquire has filed a class action suit against the local town, appealing the latest ordinance as they feel it violates many of their clients' rights as Indigenous creatures. Such a litigious time of the we're in. Well, we're going to keep you up on what happens with those particular cases. So that's our monologue. Now for the first of the year, let's talk magic and what kind you may be practicing. Now you might think you don't practice magic, but do you or don't you? New England magics. We tend to look at the first of our year as January 1st. That's it for the Gregorian calendar. You might see a lot of things happening around January 19th. Historically, that's when people followed the Julian calendar. Well, a lot of people brought simple folk magic here for those who immigrated from other lands, and they brought their customs, superstitions, and magic with them. It has been baked into the New England culture for almost 300 years or so. So we've added to it, mixed, blended, and made a unique magical culture that's unlike any other, but it feels familiar and comforting like home. Some of these may have made it to where you lived or grew up, even if it was a far-flung place away from here. An example, if you're walking along and happen to see a comb on the ground, never, ever, ever pick it up. I know you want to. It might look like litter. I wouldn't pick it up because it belongs to the banshee. And she does not like her things taken, and you will get bad fortune. The banshee comes from the Irish culture. So you see that comb on the ground, you leave it alone. Chances are she'll come and get it when she wants it. A favorite, knock on wood. I say that all the time. I actually have a belt I wear that has a wooden stick on it, a rod on it that I use to knock on wood if I need to knock on wood. And we do that to keep bad fortune from settling around us if we happen to say something, like things have been going really well lately. Oh, we don't want the spirits to feel like, well, we want to balance things out and bring you some bad fortune, so you knock on wood. Some individuals will actually say, they'll knock on their heads. I've seen that lately. That doesn't work. And your head is not made of wood, so don't do that. Believing in wood spirits and keeping them happy is also keeping humble, that there are other things that are greater than you in nature. So that kind of goes back to that particular concept. And it comes from the ancient Celts. And the wood you're supposed to knock on is supposed to be willow. The first day it snows, enough to track a cat. So not just a few flakes in the air, but if it snows enough that you can actually see the tracks of an animal in the snow, look at the day of the calendar that is. And that is the number of storms we'll get. Well, 2 nights ago, on the 2nd and 3rd of December, is the first time we had any significant snow that we could track. So as last year, I was keeping track and it snowed on the 5th of December, and we actually had 5 plowable snowstorms. I'm going for 2 to 3 storms this year. If not, I'm going to want to talk to the manager. It'll be one of those people. So first days of the month. There are some cultures from the Mediterranean, Italian, Greece, that will say rabbit, rabbit. They say that on the first day of the month. And so many people I've heard that have wondered why. It's because rabbits have always been a symbol of fertility, and fertility is abundance. And today that translates into money. So, prosperity, money, abundance. So when you say rabbit, rabbit on the first day, it's supposed to bring good fortune, especially prosperity. If you forget, though, to say rabbit, rabbit on the first day of the month, I have heard recently that you can say Tibar, Tibar, rabbit backwards, the last thing at night on that first day. That's the last thing you say that night, it still works. So, first day of the year magics. The first month sets the tone for the upcoming year. Do your cleaning, your organizing, your throwing out, getting rid of, recycling, repurposing, and bringing to goodwill. Don't wait for spring cleaning, do it now. This sets the tone for the upcoming year. Allow fresh air into the home every day for just 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to open all the windows, but just open a couple. This is actually something that is considered almost a medical practice over in Sweden and the Netherlands, also in Germany and parts of Eastern Europe. The Swedish call it vadra. The Germans call it luften. They're exchanging stale air for fresh air. This has been something they have done culturally forever. And they really, truly believe in this. Some follow the first footers, whoever comes over your doorstep after the first of the year. Make sure they're of good cheer, a happy person, a person of good health, wealth, and disposition, as they will leave those qualities behind them when they leave. Now, no, you can't leave your house and sneak around and knock on the door and be the first person in. I know some of you want to do that because you want to control everything, but that is not how it works. You have to have somebody come to your door that doesn't live there. But you don't have to let everyone in that comes to your door. You can tape a packet of salt into your mailbox for protection against harmful messages. Citrus, a big bowl of oranges, lemons, limes, bring in good cheer, health, and remove spiritual germs. And to be able to afford fresh citrus, it has always been exotic. As it comes from faraway, warm, exotic locales, it indicates wealth. And many first of the year customs differ. For instance, in Asia, customs include wearing new clothes, often red for good luck, and visiting relatives and friends to exchange well wishes. Money in red envelopes is given to children, and some traditions also involve avoiding certain activities like sweeping the floor or washing to prevent sweeping away good fortune. In Italian culture, for good luck and prosperity, people will eat lentils. The small coin-shaped beans are a symbol of wealth for the new year, with some families serving them as a side dish to zampone, stuffed pork feet. Some will wear red underwear. I know we had a question about that. It's a tradition for good luck and passion, especially if it's a gift. Some other cultures in that part of the world in Southern Europe like to wear special underwear. Wearing red underwear is said to bring love, while yellow is thought to attract money. And also in Naples, Italy, and in Spain, it's a tradition to eat 12 grapes at midnight, with 12 grapes, one at a time, one for each stroke of midnight, symbolizing the months of the year and bringing good fortune, but be careful not to choke. You want to do this only if you are sober and that you can eat and chew and swallow carefully and be focused. We do not want anyone to have any accidents. A lot of people in Europe gather for big dinners. Families and friends gather for a large meal, which may include special dishes, wine, and desserts. And people all over the world, from the United States to South and Central America to Asia, and Europe, will celebrate with fireworks. They're a popular way to celebrate, especially in public squares. They do this especially to help scare away bad spirits. And people in Spain like to write and burn wishes, what we call petitions in our belief system. Some families write their New Year's wishes on paper and burn them to ensure they come true. We tend to do this at least once, if not twice a month. In Poland, rest and quiet time is very popular around the New Year's. with people spending New Year's Eve and the next day with family. It is common, though, for those that don't want to spend quiet time at home to run in New Year's marathons and have other active events that take place in Polish cities. To bring prosperity, some Polish individuals may bathe in water with a silver coin, and that is thought to bring money and prosperity for the upcoming year. But you only have to bathe once with the silver coin, and then the rest of your bathing throughout the year you can just do normally. Symbolic actions in Poland: wrapping fruit trees with straw can protect them from evil spirits and ensure a good harvest. In some northern areas, burning straw in front of houses symbolizes leaving behind the worries of the previous year. In Ukraine, this is great because my family comes from both Ukraine and Poland. Symbolic sowing. Boys and men go to houses to sow grain such as wheat, rye, barley, and oats, which is believed to bring good luck and good harvest. Caroling, which they call Shrevdrevik. Carolers go house to house performing songs, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, Shrevdrivsky. That's it, Shrevdrivsky. To bless the hosts with health and success, and are often rewarded with treats. Traditional feast. The New Year's table is set with traditional dishes like Olivier salad and herring under a fur coat, and tangerines. Now, a herring under a fur coat is a layered salad with a herring, and then you put sour cream and then chopped boiled eggs and chopped cooked potatoes, and it's layered up. It's actually really delicious. It's one of my favorites. Symbolic activities. The Polas. I don't do this myself because it involves bringing cattle into the house. I grew up on a farm and I prefer to keep the cattle out in the paddock, but that's just me. You do you. And the ritual eating, this is a favorite, of kutia. It's a sweet wheat berry pudding, is a key New Year's custom. And you take wheat berry, you cook it, and then you mix it with a honey milk, and you put chopped dried apricots and raisins. And, oh, it's delicious. It's absolutely delicious. And weather forecasting is also very popular in Ukraine. Fortune telling and forecasting the weather for the next year are also part of the tradition. Wonder where I got it. And to finish up, also a very popular custom in Ukraine is walking Malanka around the village, which is a carnival type of atmosphere. Participants wear elaborate, often handmade costumes representing historical figures, animals, and other characters like kings or gypsies, woodland creatures. They go door to door with visits. The groups known as carolers or Malanka walk from house to house singing, dancing, and performing skits for families. The symbolic purpose is meant to bring good fortune and scare away evil spirits to ensure a prosperous new year. And it is also used to bring communities together with people preparing feasts and working together to create costumes as part of the celebration. So I hope you have some New Year's celebrations that you find to be traditional in your family. And if not, you can make your own. I go out walking after midnight, out in the starlight, just like we used to do. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. I walk for miles along the highway. Well, that's just my way of saying I love you. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. I stopped to see a weeping willow
crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. And as the skies turn gloomy, night winds whisper to me, I'm lonesome as I can be. I go a-walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just like we used to do. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. And as the skies turn gloomy, night winds whisper to me, I'm lonesome as I can be. I go a-walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just hoping you may be somewhere a-walking after midnight, searching for me. I go a-walking after midnight, searching for you. If you're looking for trouble, you came to the right place. If you're looking for trouble, just look right at my face. I was born standing up and talking back. My daddy was a green-eyed mountain jack because I'm evil. My middle name's Misery. Yeah. Well, I'm evil, so don't you mess around with me. I never look for trouble, but I ain't never ran. I don't take no orders from no kind of man. I'm only made out of flesh, blood, and bone. But if you're gonna start a rumble, don't you try it all alone, because I'm evil. My middle name's Misery, Misery, Misery. Yeah, it is. Well, I'm evil, so don't you mess around with me. I'm evil, evil, evil as can be. I'm evil, evil, evil as can be. So don't mess around, don't mess around, don't mess around with me. I'm evil, baby, I'm evil. I'm evil, evil. So don't mess around with me. I'm evil, I tell you I'm evil. So don't mess around with me. Yeah.
And welcome back. And tonight, my friends, we have in studio a wonderful guest. It is the executive director of the Little Theatre of Manchester from Manchester, Connecticut, Mr. Dwayne Harris. Everyone give him a hand.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Thanks for being here. This is really great. Well, this is going to be airing in January. So we were just talking, you just finished up, from what I've heard, a phenomenal production of Sweeney Todd.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so what's up for the Little Theatre of Manchester coming up?
Sure. So in addition, we do 5 main stage plays and musicals throughout the course of the year, but we also do anywhere from 20 to 30 one-night concerts and one-off events.
Yeah.
So in January, we have a Bon Jovi tribute coming the first Saturday of January. And then we, the next Friday, January 9th, we have a Cher concert, a Cher tribute artist coming in. Bon Jovi we've never had before. Cher we had once a couple years ago, and people loved her and thought she was fantastic. So really excited to bring her back. She does all the costume changes and it really brings it to life. And then our next main stage production opens, we start our 2026 season with Neil Simon's Rumors that opens in February.
That's a great one.
It is. It's a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. We just closed in August. We had Neil Simon's Plaza Suite, and the audiences loved it and raved about it. So I'm really excited to bring this one to the audiences.
Wow. That's great. And so, as an executive director, it sounds like you do everything. What do you do?
Sure. So I have the privilege, I'll say, of doing all the non-artistic stuff with the organization. So I do all the marketing, the finance, managing the building, sort of anything that doesn't happen actually on the stage or behind the scenes is sort of my purview. So I have the pleasure of doing all of that and sort of hiding in the background, which is where I definitely belong. I have no interest in being out on stage and have a lot of admiration for people that can do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I'm still amazed that I'm here. I just, this was never a dream, but now it is. I love it.
Yeah.
Something about the lights.
Yeah,
You got to watch them. You got to watch them. They're tricky because they'll get you.
Yeah.
So that's great. So how long have you been with the Little Theater of Manchester?
So about 10 and a half years. And so it feels, I'll be honest, it feels a lot shorter than that. I've never done anything in my life for a solid 10 years. So it's sort of a milestone and miraculous to me. But I'll be honest with you, COVID sort of wiped out a solid 2 to 3 years of that.
Yeah.
So it definitely does not feel like 10 years. But
I don't think those years counted.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
Yeah, let's just skip them.
Yeah.
And come to where we never, right on the other side of it.
Yeah. Oh, everyone was locked in their houses, so it's just like, dude, did they count? I've asked friends.
Yeah, right, exactly.
When I look at anniversaries, when I look at friendships, people I've met, it's like, have we known each other that long? Or do we count?
Right, yeah.
So, wow. I remember when I first had my introduction to Cheney Hall. I was on the Cheney Hall Foundation that actually started with the cleaning and the fundraising and opening the doors the very first time. So it's so great to see where it's become and how it's helping the community and all the things that it does. People love it. I was just there a week or so ago for the swearing-in ceremony.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was wonderful. And just looking at it, I was just thinking back. So that is really great.
It's a great venue, and we're really honored. Little Theater Manchester is honored to be the steward of it and to take care of it. And really, it's such a valuable asset. So many other, especially other community theaters, they don't have sort of the majestic venue that we do. So we're really lucky to have Cheney Hall. It's a beautiful building.
And the Little Theater of Manchester, is that just local artists, or do you ever get for instance, I'm asking because I went to Hartford Stage one time and they had Kevin Bacon doing Rear Window. So do you ever bring anyone more famous in to work with the Little Theater?
No, so our niche is really local, and I use the term local loosely, but amateur, actors that don't have their amateurs is sort of a wrong
they're
word,
too
right?
good for that. They're really amazing.
Them, really have the qualities to be on Broadway.
Yes.
But they have these people that have their regular 9-to-5 jobs, and this is their passion, and they do it on the side or in the evenings when they're not at work. So that's really what we focus on is bringing giving that opportunity to local actors. We have people from Massachusetts that come in for our shows, Southern Connecticut. They're making that drive up to be in some of our shows. Wow. And so it's not just the immediate area, but it's definitely actors that in fact we are prevented from using actors that have their professional equity cards.
Really?
We're not prevented, but they're not allowed to perform for theater such as ours.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because I've seen so many different plays put on there, and it just blows my mind that you say that they're going to work on, Monday to a regular job.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Because
right.
they're so good.
Yeah, no,
And
definitely.
it never occurred to me that, I'm thinking, until you said that, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm really thinking that, no, they're professional.
Yeah, right, right,
Because, well, I guess that's a compliment, isn't it?
For sure, yeah. The amount of talent that is in this area is just tremendous. We're really lucky to have so much talent.
Great. So do you have the whole year booked as far as your events, and how could people find all the different plays and different one-offs, like you said, coming
Yes,
up?
we do. We run on a calendar year, which is, most theaters sort of start in the fall and in late spring.
Yes.
We run all year long, and we do set that at the beginning of the year. So at least for all of our upcoming plays and musicals, that's all live now on our website, cheneyhall.org.
And
So
we'll
people
put
can
that
go
right
and
here.
see. Perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
So people can go and see we have Rumors, as I mentioned. We have a musical called Once on This Island
nice.
next. We have Waverly Gallery is a play that we're doing, 12 Angry Jurors.
Oh, wow.
And we close our season next November in about a year from now with The Prom, the musical The Prom, which
Prom.
is a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. Oh, I love the musicals.
Yeah,
Those are my
yeah,
favorites.
yeah.
So, wow, that is really wonderful.
Yeah,
So-
it's a great season. And then peppered throughout there, we've got, like I said, 20 to 30 concerts. We're still working on booking right now. So all that as that becomes live, it'll be on the website as well.
That's it. And it's all taking place inside Cheney Hall.
That's correct. Yep.
That's great. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
this
my
has
pleasure.
really been awesome, and I really encourage you guys to check out. You said it's cheneyhall.com?
.org.
.org.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's a nonprofit.
That's right. Correct.
Well, that's wonderful. So they take donations, and
We do, yeah.
and people can become members, and that's all on your website.
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah, all there.
wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Dwayne Harris.
Yeah, my pleasure.
The executive director of the Little Theater of Manchester. Please check out their events, their plays, because they really are outstanding. You'll be very impressed, so especially if you enjoy theater. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here on The Magical Alternative. Thank you. Today with the runes, even at my store, I have a handout, and they're very easy to come by, that has all 25, even the blank one, and they have a short explanation of what each
Right.
one is. How accurate do you think those descriptions
Right, okay,
are?
let's start with what is referred to as the first great rune heresy.
Yes, please.
Okay, so that's Ralph Blum.
Yes.
He decided there was no rune that meant fate. So he decided to create the blank rune.
He created the blank.
He created the blank rune. There was no blank rune in use before Ralph Blum. You won't find any serious rune user with a set of runes with a blank rune in it. The reason being is that these are all weird. That's with a Y, weird. Because they all reflect fate. And the Germanic concept of fate is very different. It's cause and effect.
Yes.
Some things are fixed, or log, as it's called. Some things aren't, as such. And it's dangerous to go against your weird. It's very similar to the concept, the real concept of karma, which means that which I must do, that which is my obligation. It's very like that. So what people did when it came to reading runes is, well, first of all, we have what is clearly from Tacitus, the casting, putting down a white cloth and throwing them down. So people developed systems from that. But people also used what they know about. And the first person to do this was one of those German rune magicians. His name was Ernst Kurzan. And he was the first person to talk about laying runes down like tarot cards, because he'd also written books on tarot. So he wrote a book on this in 1924 called The Lots of Fate. And what he did was he said, well, why don't we just lay them down like tarot? Because this is what he knew about. Will it work? Yes. So it will work because the runes, as such, because they're connected with this concept of weird, as long as you're doing them for the right reason and you develop your own system, they will work.
So
But what happens
rather
over time?
throwing, you take
Throwing them
a
down.
bag at a time and put them down.
Yeah, and people have developed ways of interpreting themselves. So different books will have different ways. It's not that one way is right or one way is wrong. They're just different ways. And the runes are very intuitive.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So Ralph Blum, for example, he does exactly the same. There's no evidence at all historically that this is done. He laid them out like rune readings.
Ah.
You see? There's no evidence for that. Doesn't mean it won't work.
Yes.
I do it myself. My favorite way is to cast, which is very dramatic. A little prayer to Freya, put my, and then boom, throw them down on the cloth. And then I read them in a specific way. I tend to read them out from the center as a spiral.
Okay.
And if a rune is, depending on the direction the rune is facing on, is related to the quarters. If it's face down, it's unknown.
Okay. Do you take that bag of runes and do you take the blank one out? Or
No,
do you
because
allow it to stay in there?
I never had a blank rune in the first place. Because when you get seriously into runes, you create your own.
You create your own. Okay, good.
Yeah. So
you never
traditionally,
create one. Okay.
you're going to read that traditionally you do them on ash.
Ash. Okay.
Which
But
is
if
interesting.
someone were to buy a set and it has the blank one.
You develop your own way and systems of doing runes.
Yes.
It's what works for you. Every book you pick up is either being copied from another author,
Yeah.
but you won't find anything before 1924, basically, which tells you how to read the runes. They're not there. And there's also another important thing about the meanings, and that's really about understanding what a rune is. And most people don't really understand what a rune actually is.
Would you explain to us, please? Because I
So,
that all the time.
basically, people think that the symbol, the stave as it's called, the rune stave as it's called, and that comes from the idea of carving the rune on a piece of wood, a stave. So when you talk about the symbol of a rune, it's called the stave.
Yeah.
And what you have is, a rune is made of several things. First of all, it's that symbol, the stave. Then it's a sound, a letter. And this is important, they're phonetic. So the first Germanic rune is fehu.
Yes.
And that's a feh, it's a first sound. Okay. Remember, they don't have a written language, not teaching letters as such. They're teaching that results as it relates to a sound.
Okay.
Fehu. Okay. So you've got fehu, which, so you've got the stave, the letter fehu, your phonetic letter.
Yes.
The name, fehu.
Okay.
Symbol, letter, name, fehu. Fehu means cattle.
Okay.
So you've got the next one, the meaning. Fehu means cattle. And the meaning comes next, that's for. Now, the more you meaning, the concept is important. That's the rune.
All of them together?
No.
No.
These are representatives of the rune. The rune is the concept, the meaning. And this is where people also have problems when they start to read the books, because they will pick up one book and it will say one meaning, and pick up another book and it will say another meaning.
Yes.
The same rune. Because the meanings are generally drawn from one set of sources, and those are the rune poems.
The rune poems.
Yes, there's basically 3 rune poems.
Okay.
The earliest of these is the Anglo-Saxon rune poem, which traces back to around about this 8th century. And that has 29 meanings. Okay, each a little verse explaining the rune. There is no rune poem for the elder.
Is that the next one?
No, for the 24.
Oh, the one that's prior
The elder Futhark, there's no meanings for them. So people applied the Anglo-Saxon.
Oh.
Now, the reason they did that is because of the next two poems. The one is the Norwegian, and there's a variation called the Swedish. Now, the Anglo-Saxon rune poems go from 29 to 33. The Viking runes, the younger Futhark, are only 18. There's not enough meanings. And you've then got also the Icelandic rune poem. So you've got the Anglo-Saxon, the Norwegian, Swedish, and Viking. Viking Icelandic.
Viking, Icelandic, and that has how many?
The Norwegian, Swedish, and the Viking, basically 18 runes. So not enough meanings in those rune poems. What you find is people use a fusion. They use a fusion of meanings, principally from the Anglo-Saxon, because that's got the most letters related to the elder. In fact, it's got more.
This looks like an awful lot of different Saxon, Norwegian, Swedish, Viking, Icelandic, Elder Futhark, Younger Futhark, and
Yes.
the
Everybody comes
20.
into runes thinking it's nice and simple.
Well, I never made that mistake, which
It's
is why I
not.
never
It's been
got in.
made simple by writers. The meanings for the runes are mysteries. Runa. Runa, runen, basically means secret or mystery, something hidden.
Oh, Runa.
Okay, so a mystery is something which needs to be experienced,
Yes.
which is why most of the main runic schools, like the Rune Guild and other organizations, have you doing meditation.
Okay.
Because what you have to do is really have an understanding. Now, the way I describe it is to understand what a rune is. You know how with our memories,
Yeah.
right? They're not chronological. They're based on associations. So, for example, if you smell something, it immediately triggers a song or a memory. This is what the runes are like, the real rune, what I call the true rune.
Okay.
There's also another factor, and there is a story, and it's a Hindu story,
Okay.
of basically the three blind men hearing about a strange creature in the jungle being taken out. And as they grab hold by a little boy, a boy says, "We found this strange creature." And they come to this strange creature, and one grabs hold of one part and says, "Oh my God, oh yeah, it's definitely a bull." Another person grabs another bit and says, "What are you talking about? This is a tree." Another one grabs another part. "Oh my God, it's a snake." Because they're all coming from different angles, but all these things belong to the same beast.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm talking about an elephant.
Elephant. Yeah.
So a rune's a bit like that. Some people will find they get on with one meaning, they find the tail, and then from following the tail, they find the rest of the beast. So all these meanings you come across aren't always, even though they conflict, aren't wrong. They're different interpretations of the same thing. The thing about mysteries as such is they're not something you can really express in words. Because what we're talking about here is energies. So a rune is a mystery, a secret, and a mystery is an energy, often something you have to experience. Like death, for example, is something people need to experience, not by actually dying, but by coming into contact with it, or they will never experience the feeling of it, for example. This is what you have to understand with the rune. So the first thing I was taught was basically get a book and just write down all the different meanings you come across and look for the connections and the associations. And as you do that, you'll find more. So let's take Fehu again.
Yes.
Let's take cattle.
Yes.
Now, that energy is so universal. I was in South Africa about 2008, and I was actually in a township outside of Cape Town, where the Lesotho Sangoma, Lesotho is a tribe, Sangoma, the traditional healers. And we were honored for 2-day ceremony as being made honorary elders. And at the end of the second day, I had to give a gift to the elder. Now, she was just called Caroline because none of the Europeans there could actually pronounce her name because it was in a Lesotho use a language very similar to the Bushman of the Kalahari. It's full of clicks.
Yes.
So everybody just called her Caroline.
Okay.
And I gave her this set of runes that I had made for her. And she took the Fehu rune. I said, look, these are all from an elder who hung on a world tree and gained knowledge. And the first thing she says, we've got one of them. Doesn't matter where you go around the world, there's a myth of somebody hanging on a tree.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. They even got it in Australia with the Koori, the Aboriginals there.
Isn't
Hanging
that
on a tree.
interesting?
Gain knowledge. It's a shamanic journey.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So-
That's wonderful.
I start to go through them, explaining them. I said, these are like your bones, except they have these symbols and they mean specific things. I said, this is Fehu and it means cattle. And she knew the meaning immediately. It's a universal.
Yes. And did it have the same
Buy it,
meaning
sell
for
it,
you?
eat it. But what else does a cattle mean?
Mm.
A cattle actually represents honor and reputation. It represents your position in society. Because you own cattle, you have wealth.
Well,
You see what I mean? So there's more to cattle.
oh yeah.
There's the birth process. In Norse mythology, or there's Ordama, who literally gives birth to the world, in the mythology of Norse. So you have all of this attached to a rune.
Wow.
So this means you come across the same mysteries related to runes and other traditions.
So just learning those 24 individual runes could take quite a while
Yeah.
to learn the language.
Yeah.
And then to learn the magic.
It's
and then to learn.
it's about mastering the runes.
Everyone, I want to thank you so much. And I want to thank our guest, Mr. Gavin Bone. This has been a fabulous conversation. And I'm pretty sure we're going to break this into a couple of segments because we want to get every juicy piece of information we discussed so you guys can enjoy it. Thank you so much. And let's give my guest a hand. Thank you so much, Mr. Gavin.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure
Thank you for being with us.
Hi, I'm Faith McCann, the host of The Magical Alternative. I really hope you've been enjoying our show. Have you checked out the other interesting, entertaining, and informative shows here at Community Voice Channel? Local government, religion, and entertainment right here in your home or on your personal digital device. Well, public access television is in danger of being canceled. I know, that's right. Government funding is being cut, and we want to continue giving you the shows that you enjoy. You can show your support by scanning this QR code with your smartphone and make any size donation. All donations go to keep your favorite shows coming to you every month. We thank you for your support. Tonight we're going to do a book review and talk about an author. Both are a classic that has much to teach today, as it did in 1957 when it was first published by Random House, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Well, the author, Theodore Geisel, born March 2nd, 1904 in Springfield, Massachusetts, was a very, very special guy. He's one of my favorites. We have a copy here of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, from a big book of Seuss stories, a treasury of Dr. Seuss classics. This came from the library, and yes, it will be returned. It's a really nice one. I have a couple of my favorites. The Lorax. I love this one. And, of course, big about the environment. Horton Hears a Who. But doing a little bit of research, I found out things I didn't know about Dr. Seuss or Theodore Geisel. He and his sister experienced a lot of anti-German sentiment during World War I. And he didn't write stories with morals for kids, or he never started writing a story with a moral in mind. He felt, quote unquote, a kid could see a moral coming from a mile off. So he did write about current issues and felt there was an inherent moral in every story. He felt of himself, and he was quoted as saying about himself that he was subversive as hell. And he was a proud anti-fascist who felt Hitler, Mussolini, Castro, and Stalin were very, very bad for our world, as indeed they proved to be. The Sneetches, if you remember the Sneetches with the stars on theirs, some Sneetches had stars, some didn't have. Well, that was about racial equality. And while Geisel was not Jewish, he was a strong ally for the Jewish people. And the stars upon theirs were felt to be very similar to the yellow stars forced upon the Jewish prisoners held in the concentration camps in Nazi-occupied Germany and Western Europe during World War II. Geisel himself spoke out regularly in support of equal opportunities for Jewish people and was perhaps the first cartoonist to predict and denounce the fate of the Jewish people under Hitler. In 1969, and this was so cool because I did not know about this, in recognition of his friendship and support of the Jewish people, he was awarded the title of Honorary Jew by Jerusalem Mayor Teddy Kollek. Now, the Lorax was about environmentalism and anti-consumerism. If you've heard of the book Yertle the Turtle, that was a favorite of mine, I didn't realize that was about Adolf Hitler and anti-authoritarianism, which is probably why I'm such a troublemaker. The Grinch Stole Christmas was specifically Geisel's way of criticizing economic materialism and consumerism at Christmas time. And when he wrote about Christmas in The Grinch Stole Christmas, he was very careful to avoid any mention of religion. Now, people might say, well, he's talking about Christmas, but he felt that Christmas was a secular holiday that could apply to all children and could be celebrated by everyone. So he tried to keep religion out of it. After he passed away, his widow was in charge of his foundation, the Seuss Foundation. And when, if you remember the movie, The Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey, apparently she was given the opportunity to approve the script. And when it was going to become a movie, the script was written to include a menorah and a family, the Hoosteins. Well, his widow said no. She stepped in, not because, again, that she had a problem with Jewish people. As we know, they were very, very much allies of the Jewish community, but she felt that by putting any religious aspect in there, it would single out some and a whole case of othering. She felt it should be for all children and to stay true to her late husband's vision. So she said no. Dr. Seuss, or Theodore Geisel, went to Dartmouth College and called himself a doctor because his father wanted him to get a doctorate. And he never did until Dartmouth gave him an honorary one for his over 60 children's books that he had written. And he had an incredible ability to teach us how writing and art are not simply entertainment, but can be powerful weapons that can be used to change the world for the better. Because in the words of the great late Dr. Seuss, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And again, even though he's no longer with us, check out a Dr. Seuss book. Make sure your kids know who Dr. Seuss is. He had a lot of good stuff to put out there about equality and everybody, you know, being good and taking care of our environment. So check out Dr. Seuss. If your kids don't know Dr. Seuss, that's not good. So have a wonderful, a blessed, a healthy, and a happy New Year's and a 2026.